You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Okay, so welcome to another episode of our series about handmade and how it used to be and how it is today. Today I've got a story of Snutka Golinska. That's something new, probably you haven't heard about that. So I've got a translation of an interview that was conducted by Karolina Nowaczyk from our association with Zofia Talarowska. So let's dive deep into that. So Zofia Talarowska, she has been living in Golin since she was born, and she makes Snutka Golinska. In 1982 in Golin, there was a course run by Mrs. Pelagia Pietrzak, Snutkarka Wielka. Translator's note, Master of Snutka Golinska, embroidery. Yeah, it's really hard to translate that, but yeah, that was a great trial. And Zofia took part in it, and she taught, or actually she has been taught, how to embroider that. So what exactly Snutka Golinska is? Well, it is a type of embroidery created with a special thread. We don't know where its name comes from, but it's just Snutka Golinska, where Snutka is the name of the thread and Golinska means that it comes from this area of Golin. And what is its characteristic features? Well, the special thread is characteristic feature. The thread is the feature itself. You might call it a linking thread, which is sewn in a specific way on a plain weave, and we think the name of the embroidery type, Snutka Golinska, comes from this specific way of sewing. It means, nasuwać, like haft nasuwane. It's really hard to translate it, to be honest, but you'll get to know all about it when you see the pictures on our webpage. But let's go deeper into the Snutka embroidery. When asked about the process of preparing this embroidery, how does it look like? Zofia admitted that you just take a plain weave, a pattern, a tracing paper, and you just draw the pattern. Then you track it, make a so-called base. To make a base, you need to embroider along the lines of the pattern in one direction and then back. You don't embroider it further, just one way, and then back. Then, on this ready base, you just link the triangles with the linking thread. It has to be really strong. Okay, so what type of a thread? Well, Ariadna cotton thread is the best. This is what we use for linking on plain weave. But first, you have to draw the triangles because they are what the linking thread links. We draw with a pencil because it's the most convenient way. Then we do the linking, and after that we embroider. One should embroider with whatever one prefers, floss or satin. Satin is more delicate. One should prick the knots that one embroiders so they won't be too big. We have a special tool for pricking, and the knots are not like everywhere. There are not knots everywhere. And this little element, you will have to see that on the picture. Like, what is this characteristic element? It's a basket. One should embroider it around the hole. So you just take the needle and embroider the knots from underneath, and they are called koszyczek. So it's translated into basket. This is a margaret, and another one is a twig, gałązka. And there are also patterns that are called spider, like pajączek. So each motif in snutka has its name. And how about the patterns? Are there like ready-made patterns, or they should be created for oneself? Where Zofia admitted that at first she used to exchange patterns with her friends. One drew one and another drew another one, and they just exchanged. And now when someone orders a napkin, she just draws a pattern herself. When it's necessary, she just draws it. And she puts elements on the parchment and draws them herself. And when the napkin is embroidered, what is the next step? You just need to wash it, and you have to wash it very gently. You just pour the powder into a bowl, soak it, and get rid of the pencil from the tracing paper, because there are little traces left on the napkin, and the thread can go blue, so you need to soak and leave it for a while. If it doesn't let go, we just cook. And it's a linen thread, so nothing bad will happen to that while cooking. And cooking obviously helps with cleaning it up. And then it's just prepared for cutting. After the cutting, we just pin the napkin on styrofoam, and every corner is pinned for the napkin to dry it nicely in a proper position. And after it dries, we could just cut off the edges. The starch is so thick that we don't even need to iron the napkin. Just pinning into styrofoam is enough, because it dries up as a really stiff product. So, are there many people who make snutka golińska? Well, Zofia admitted that there are just few ladies in Golin who embroider, but there are not very many or numerous people who does that. Some of them, they just do it themselves. And she and 3 other ladies from Golin belong to Kalisz Community Center, and that's why they take part in various exhibitions with their napkins. The center runs exhibition, and they just go and show their snutka. But there are a lot of women who embroider napkins for their own use. There are also courses at schools, but now they are suspended, because of the coronavirus. Some people want to learn, and they are younger and younger who are the, students. So Zofia admitted they are really happy to share this tradition, and the tradition continues. And what changes has snutka golińska underwent over the years? Are there any elements that have changed or been, upgraded or reinvented during this, evolution of embroidery? Well, Zofia admitted it hasn't changed much, because back then, when snutka was kind of invented, the artist made also twigs and flowers. What she admitted that has changed in her way of embroidering is the length of the linking thread. Sometimes when it seems to her that it is too long, they just add a loop. It doesn't have to be perfect. There can be 5 loops here and 6 loops there. She admitted they embroider how they think is nice. They usually stick the old patterns, but they also add some new ones, like bunnies or Christmas trees or Easter eggs. Back then, like in the olden days, ladies made more tablecloth and long napkins for the church, and for, the church they are most beautiful with all those, old snutka cloths and new ones too. And, Mrs. Zofia embroidered the cloth which is now used in the church. So how big is that? This question was on purpose by Karolina, because the cloth they were talking about was 2.5 meters long. That's approximately 6.5 feet. And it took her long 6 months to make. But the base was made with Mrs. Krawczyńska from Golina and Mrs. Wróblowa. They did it actually together. And she did the linking and embroidered it all. Those 6 months of working all day long, also in winter, every day, till, 11 p.m. That's the work of art. And this napkin lying here in front of her while, taking this interview, the diameter was probably around 25 or 30 centimeters. That's like 10, 12 inches. And when you think about how long does it take to make it, Zofia admitted that she's making such a size of a napkin for nearly a month. And coming back to snutka, it's white. That's the thing that you can remember about snutka. Yes, it's only white, on a white plain weave, and only white. And how about those people from Golina region? Those also had their own band, this Goliniacy band, and they had their special costumes. And we know that Zofia was working on those costumes because they, were having those elements of snutka in them. She admitted she hasn't sewn them. The costumes for the band were sewn by Mrs. Pietrzakowa and Mrs. Krawczyńska and Mrs. Kowalska from their association, but they also made their caps. They have beautiful costumes made with snutka Golinska embroidery, but now more bands have such costumes. Those ladies, they made costumes for, snutki band from Potarzyca, and Mrs. Stasia with Mrs. Gienia made the caps for the band. And they made 19 sets altogether. So just imagine how many hours of hard work that must have been. And what about the patterns? Is Mrs. Zofia also a pattern designer? Well, she admitted that yes, she prepared everything. She changed the flowers in the ruffs because the patterns from the apron have to match the ones on the ruffs. And so she drew the same. So in a way, she was also the designer of the patterns in those costumes for the bands. The sleeves of the shirts are also made with snutka. So young people have 9 costumes, and the shirts are less decorative than those that wear older people. But, those elderly ones, they have those wide embroidered sleeves that people from Golin used to have, and the caps are made with snutka as well. So Mrs. Stasia and Mrs. Gienia made the caps for Potarzyca. So patterns could be created on a computer, and Zofia said that some people do that. Mrs. Jola Łukaszewska has created a napkin pattern on a computer, and here it is, as she was just showing that during the interview. One can make this computer pattern smaller or bigger, and Mr. Radek Żyto can even make a ready pattern on the plain weave ready to be embroidered. And Zofia admitted that she can't do that on computer. She just, draws it the old way. But it's important to mention here that this technology followed the traditional snutka golinska embroidery. And, there are also tools to use it in a modern embroidery. And coming back to the question about, washing, let's say one has a napkin and it got dirty. What shall we do what shall we do then with the napkin? So Zofia said that the most convenient way to wash it is by using styrofoam, a white towel or a cloth, and to pin it on the cloth to the styrofoam. Then you just need to put it into a bowl with washing powder, but you don't touch it, you just soak it. If it's more dirty or yellowish, then you can cook it, but with no touching. Just soak it and it'll go white all by itself. If it doesn't after the first time, pour off the water and do it again, and it'll whiten. They go yellow because of the starch, but they will whiten after you wash them. And snutki are very durable. The altar tablecloths at the church, for example, they have been there for, years and years, probably since the First World War, when Mrs. Moszczyńska came. The old tablecloth was made by Mrs. Bernasowska, who lived in Golin, and Mrs. Moszczyńska has also lived there when the manor house in Golin burned down, and she made this old tablecloth. Mrs. Krawczyńska got this pattern, and gentleman from Żelkowo drew it, and then the pattern was made as an embroidery. It was some 85 or so years ago on the old tablecloth that lied in the main altar, and this is, one that is still present there now. There are many pre-war tablecloths with the image of Virgin Mary, for example. There is a rosary on it, or there are some big embroidered hearts. Those are beautiful tablecloths, and one wouldn't imagine that they're that old. It's very, comforting that there are still people who like to cultivate this tradition of snutka golinska. And there are people who want to learn this art because it's such a great Polish thing seen nowhere else. And Zofia admitted in this interview that people are delighted at all those exhibitions, but they are afraid to have such napkins on their on their tables. They prefer something artificial that's easy to wash. We make Christmas trees for Christmas, eggs and bunnies for Easter, and hang them on the windows. And by this podcast, we just hope that you will have this snutka golinska in your mind, thinking about typical Polish way of embroidery, way of decorating, that is maybe not that popular, but maybe one day it will still be popular. I hope that I kind of made you curious about snutka golinska, maybe just for the sake of this funny name. So if you are, I want to introduce you to our webpage where you find some photos. It might be way easier to recognize those patterns or see those embroidered mini arts or just pieces of art and see them in the real life before they disappear or everybody forgets that that's a part of our Polish tradition. I hope I'll see you in the next episode.